How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to City Skylines, welcome back to Plazas and Promenades, and welcome back to the county of Nerdholm. In the last episode, we sat down and finally improved our garbage situation by building a waste processing plant. Within this plant, we have a waste processing complex which sends out trucks, waste transfer trucks, to pick up garbage from transfer facilities and landfill sites. We also have 4 recycling centers, and we do have 2 landfill sites here as well. We also have a warehouse, which doesn't really do anything, and we have a single office building just because I wanted some people working out here. I wanted some variety in the traffic, and I thought it would look kind of interesting. The only issue with this space is that I forgot it would pollute the trees around it, and so if we look at the forest, it's not looking so hot. But that's okay. That's something we can figure out and deal with a little bit later on. So towards the end of the last episode, I asked for your help. I asked for suggestions for things that we could build in Nerdholm, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you because there were so many comments and so many suggestions, and it's wonderful. I've actually written all of them down in a spreadsheet, in the same spreadsheet that I've used for the last 5 years to track my YouTube uploads and release times, and one day I'll show you that entire thing. It's kind of crazy, but it's a very cool spreadsheet and I feel very grown up. Now, out of all of those comments, there were 2 things that I saw quite frequently. Thing number 1 was suburbs. It seems that a lot of you want to see us get away from the dense urban sprawl of Nerdholm itself for at least a little while and start working on suburbs and more pleasant places to live. And I agree. I think it's about time we start looking at suburbs, and we might, and probably will, do that today. But I also saw a few comments talking about some kind of retail park, and that got me thinking back a few years to the last time I think I actually built a retail park in Cities Skylines. Now, to build a retail park in the way that I think of one requires some custom assets, and so I went to the Steam Workshop, and a lot of the assets that I used back in the day, they still exist. And so I downloaded them, and they're now a part of the workshop collection for this series. So if you are following along with that collection, you might find yourself having a couple of custom assets in there. Now, this introduction's gone on a little bit longer than they usually do, so I'm going to try and keep this next part really short. Basically, I've been wanting to do a suburb for a while, but I never know how to transition away from a space like Dale Hills towards a space that isn't necessarily going to have these giant buildings. And I can never figure out how to do it. That's where I struggle. So I went to Google Maps and I looked at London, which is the city that I reference a lot for Nerdholm. Not to say that Nerdholm is a recreation, because it's not, but London has a lot of good places to reference. And I got looking around and I couldn't find anywhere that sort of illustrated what I wanted. And I realized that what I want isn't realistic. In a city like this, especially a city like London, land is at a premium. You don't really have the luxury of essentially wasting land to feather away and gradually fade away from giant buildings into smaller buildings. And I think Hammersmith is an amazing example of this. In Hammersmith, on the north side of the A4, which is a highway that cuts right through, just above the Hammersmith flyover, you have Hammersmith Station, you have hotels, you have police stations, you have restaurants, you have more train tracks, you have a lot of things going on up there, and it's quite dense. And then on the south side, you have still quite dense, but they're townhouses, essentially. And so that's what I'm going to do just to the south of Dale Hills, which is kind of fitting because Vermont District obviously has this giant train station in there in kind of a similar way to Hammersmith having the underground station right in there as well. And as a final point, just to the west of the Hammersmith flyover is a place called Linden House. So it's almost like this was meant to be. And if you know, you know. If you don't know why Linden House might be significant to this channel, just ask in the comments and someone will probably tell you the story. I've told it a million times and I'm I'm trying to avoid telling that particular story again, maybe next year. And so finally we get into the game properly, and as you can see, I've been a little bit busy placing some districts in here. We have Lakeside North, which is essentially going to be our space to the south of the Hammersmith flyover, which is what we'll pretend this motorway here is, or this highway is. We have Lakeside South, which is going to be a little bit fancier. It's sort of going to represent the space across the River Thames from Hammersmith that looks a little bit more luxurious, has a little bit more space per house. And then we have Park Retail Park, which is going to be a retail park, because of course it is. And so what I want to start today by doing is using the 2-lane gravel road to just plan this space. And the important thing with this space is to acknowledge the fact that it is going to be somewhat based on grids. It's not going to be completely free-flowing because this is still very close to all of the urban sprawl just to the north. This isn't necessarily when a suburb turns into a big suburb with massive gardens and garages and all that stuff. This is still downtown, essentially. These are going to be essentially townhouses, and they're going to be quite expensive, as is usually the way with residential lots this close to a city center. But it's also going to have the retail park here. It's going to have a lot of amenities in here. It's going to have probably a little police station, some shops, some places to work. So it's not necessarily going to be completely dependent on the rest of the city. You could, in theory, spend all of your time in this suburb and not really have to leave it. Not that that's necessarily the goal, but it is something you could do if you happen to want to. Now, what I am going to do with this space is I'm going to essentially outline it again. We already have this road that sort of circles around it, but what I want to do is come in here and have this additional road. Because the way I'm looking at this is I'm aware a lot of people are going to live in here. There's also going to be things that draw people to this neighborhood, and so I want to be careful. I want to make sure that we're not going to have way too much traffic on all of these roads. So we'll have this additional road in here. We can put houses on it and we can use that to further create the neighborhood. But I just want to be careful that traffic doesn't get too crazy around here, because I do want to connect to the roundabouts as well. And we have to remember that there is traffic from the waste processing plant that uses these roads. And eventually traffic from Lakeside South is going to use it. Traffic from whatever down here is going to use it. So we have to be careful that we don't overwhelm these roads now, because it's only going to get worse as time goes by. Now, what I am going to do is try and get this to line up really nicely. And so what we'll do is go from, I want to say here, and we can just curve over something like this to connect those guys together. Bring this straight down, bring you straight up, and that's going to be our outline for Lakeside North. Now, inside of all of this, very simply, I am going to do a bit of a grid. Not a perfectly parallel grid by any stretch of the imagination, but it is going to be a bit of a grid going on for at least some of it. I'm leaving a gap in the middle very intentionally, though, so we'll do something interesting with that. And I think what I'll do is go another 11 straight up and straight down, and that's going to be one section of a grid. And then over this way is where I want to do a bit more of this. We'll bring this road over just like so it lines up at the, well, doesn't quite line up at the corner, but that's okay. And basically sort of do the same thing. So 11 and down there, we'll go 11 again and down there, take out these guys, and then essentially just connect this in whatever way I can. So we'll come over like this, we'll come over like this. And for these guys, well, I guess what we could do is bring this straight up and bring this straight up, and there's some different angles and whatnot, but that's honestly okay. Keeps things interesting, keeps things a little bit different, and that's pretty much the layout for Lakeside North. We've got space in here for parks or football fields, soccer fields, if we want to go that way. We've got space in here for maybe a little medical clinic with some parking, maybe a little police station in here. We've got some weirdly shaped roads as well, but we can use Find It and Move It and all the different mods that we have to make the buildings work in here. The only thing we still need to do is disable zoning, and then go and connect this to the roundabouts. So 135 degrees at that corner, coming straight down gives us essentially 90 degrees at the roundabout, which is perfect. This corner as well should be exactly the same thing, straight down to there. And then over here is going to be slightly trickier, but all we need to do is, I want to say that, and that'll be okay. And then what I'm also going to do is bring a road down like this, and a road down like this. And you know what? We'll bring one straight down here as well. We don't want these roundabouts to be the only way in and out of Lakeside North, because that's going to be a little bit too much. This one especially will be super busy with all the highway traffic. So this connection might honestly not survive today. We might get rid of it. But for now, this seems like a decent enough layout. So let's get the roads upgraded. We're going to go very simple on this. We're going to say anything connecting to this main road is going to be a 2-lane road with wide sidewalks. So we're not going to have people parking on it. So this road for the roundabout, this road here, this road for the roundabout, these guys, and this road for the roundabout will have the bigger sidewalks, which will stop people parking on those roads. And then everything else is going to be the regular old 2-lane road, which I need to go and force zoning back onto. So there we go. All of this gets upgraded into the 2-lane road, because this is going to let people park on those roads outside their houses, meaning that, you know, they can have their cars and all that stuff. I could put some parking lots in here, like I said, and I probably will around things like medical centers, but I also don't mind them parking on the streets in a suburb. And so now that all of the roads have been upgraded, we have to make them a little bit better, because some of these connections to the roundabouts, well, they're a little bit janky and that needs fixed. So what we can do is select this intersection using Node Controller, and we'll just bring the offset from 20 down to about 15. We'll bring everything a little bit closer together. On this one, it's already 15, so we'll bring it down to about 12, bringing it all closer together. And we can use the Make Ends Straight button, or we can hit Control, Shift, and S to just ever so slightly shift those markings and those intersections to be a little bit better. And what we can actually do here is bring this road back just a little bit, and that's pretty good. We do have some crossings in there. I do want to get rid of those, but honestly, we kind of need to fix the roundabouts anyway, so we'll not worry too much about it, and I think we'll go 15 for the offset right there. On this guy, well, we need to start here and bring this down to about 15, bring you down to about 15, and just Control, Shift, and S to tidy that up, and bring this guy to about 15 right there. And then do the same thing for all the other junctions, get them all nice and neat, and then we're pretty much good for traffic to flow in and out of here in what should hopefully be a little bit of a better way than it would have been with these kind of janky intersections that we have. So let's just tidy all of these up. Like I said, bring this out to 15, straighten up these edges, straighten up those edges, and I think that's it. I guess these guys could use a little bit of love as well, since there's some angles going on, but nothing too major needed for any of these. They should just be relatively simple to tidy up with a little bit of Control, Shift, and S, and I think that's all of them. So here's where things are going to get a bit interesting. Well, no, I say that. Things are going to get interesting once I place the pipes. And so now that that's been done, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because this is when we start dealing with the buildings and the types of zoning that are going to be in here. And obviously, we're going to be using residential for the most part, but what I'm going to do is something like this right here. Basically, a little strip of houses, because I want to go into Find It, and I want to search for detached. And there's certain types of houses that I want to use, because what I'm looking for is something that kind of has townhouse vibes in the way that this sort of does, or this guy sort of does. I mean, these essentially are townhouses, but they don't have exactly the vibe that I'm looking for. They would be quite close together if I stack a bunch of them, but I went looking through all of this, and I will say I could have went to the Steam Workshop and got some actual townhouses, but I'm trying to avoid getting way too much custom content. So I found these guys. These are in City Skylines. They're, I don't know if they're base game buildings, they might be DLC buildings, but they're in Cities Skylines. And these are basically what I want to use. And the way I want this to work is very simple. I want to go and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, and just place a whole bunch of these, and we'll place them on the other side. In fact, we won't place them on the other side. I'll show you why in just a second. I want to place a bunch of them there, and I want to come down from this side and do pretty much exactly the same thing. Now, we could kind of place one in the middle. We'll leave it be, though, and what we can do is just press 3 and let the game run at super high speed, and these guys will all build at exactly the same time. We've got some buildings over there, which we don't want, but we'll just, you know, let this build. We've also got some buildings in the middle here, which can go away. And I suppose I'll de-zone all of this just to stop anything from building. And what you can see is a bunch of the same house. And that's kind of great. That's kind of what we're looking for. The only issue is that they will all absolutely level up. And so I went to the Steam Workshop and I got a mod. The only problem is I may have forgot to turn the mod on. And what that mod does is let me click on a district and then say that every building in that district is historic. And if a building's historic, it means that when it levels up, like this guy just did, it's not going to change the appearance of the building, which is what's happening to this guy right here. The building's appearance is most likely, and yeah, it absolutely is, as you can see, it's going to change. Now, there are other ways to do that. There's mods that let you place buildings and then they just don't change appearance. And honestly, that one's pretty good, but we'll deal with that. This is my idea. Basically, this is my plan, is to place a bunch of these guys. But this isn't quite enough as far as I'm concerned. So we'll go ahead and do this, and we'll do this to get those guys back. What I noticed when I tested this was that these guys have these hedges at either side. And that kind of got me thinking. And it got me thinking that I could, in theory, have some fun with some fences. So I want to use the forestry fence. It's this beautiful wooden fence. It has the vibe that I'm looking for. And basically, I want to go to this corner, say right about there, and we want to go across, say, like that. And then we come down, and we come down, and now we have a yard. Now, technically, this is 2 houses. You can see the 2 doors at the back. Each side is a house, and the same at the front. So technically, this should be split down the middle as well, which is kind of a thing we can do. I don't know that I love that, but we'll give it a shot for testing purposes. We'll bring this sort of over and down and over and down and over and down, and we can kind of go along this entire space and do this the entire length of all of these houses. And that's going to give us a space that feels like each of these houses is a bit bigger and has a yard which we can decorate with trees and climbing frames and things for kids to play on, and that's going to be great. But what's also cool about this is if I go and zone all of this space and I press M to bring up move it or to toggle move it, I want to grab some buildings, I want to grab some nodes, but I only want to grab fences. If I select all of these guys, I can Control C to copy, I can right click a couple of times to rotate, and I can hold Alt to snap to the grid. And then if I click, we've got all the same buildings and they're in the zoning spaces. So what I've done is very quickly created a bit of a neighborhood. And so this right here is an idea of what this neighborhood could look like if we go and do this building thing with pretty much all of it, which is basically what my plan happens to be. Now, I did reboot the game, I did go into my mods manager, and I did turn on the mod that lets me set everything in here as historical. Now, this will only work on buildings that already exist. So as I go through and place all of the buildings, I'm going to have to go through and click that button every now and then, but that's okay because honestly, I love this. I really do. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out, and I'm quite pleased that it seemed to sort of seemed to work, is what it seems to have done here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just grab all of these guys, swing them around, and see if I can be so cheeky as to just duplicate it, basically. I'm feeling a little bit lazy, and I'm just really curious to see if it's gonna let me, but I don't think it's gonna. I mean, it'll let me do it there, but it won't let me do it down here, which is a little bit disappointing and a little bit of a pickle. Ooh, I don't think it's gonna. I'm gonna have to replace. I'm gonna have to do it manually. Okay, that's fine. basically all I need to do is just place, oh, I think I placed like 3 there. I just need to do this the entire way along and, you know, about 1 million more times for this entire neighborhood. This is not, this is not how I had planned on spending my day, but apparently it's what I'm doing. Manually placing so many buildings in City Skylines. It's always an interesting adventure, is what we'll call it. It's an interesting adventure. Now, I wonder if I can get away with doing this. I hope these line up. It kind of looks like they do, doesn't it? That actually looks almost perfect. Let's see what happens when these build. Let's go in here and click the set historical button. And let's see if I actually did get the fences in the right spots there for the hedges. I actually sort of did. They're a tiny little bit off. All I would need to do is move it sort of to there, I think. And that's actually pretty good. Now, obviously, the fences in the middle don't connect to the buildings. There is a gap there, but I don't really think we're ever going to be looking at these guys all that closely, so it's not really the end of the world. And honestly, the more I build here, the more this kind of comes together. It would be nice if they had a slightly different colored roof on them, maybe a tan roof or something, but this is kind of the look that I'm going for. It's not quite terraced, obviously. You know, you zoom in again, it looks a bit weird, but it's the best we can do without just going and getting every single custom asset. And that is something I'm really trying to do. I don't want to go to the Steam Workshop and download absolutely every perfect little thing. I like occasionally having a little bit of challenge and occasionally having to just think outside the box. I think it keeps things interesting with a game like City Skylines. I think it can be very easy sometimes to just go and just download everything that you want. I think we're a little bit spoiled, if we're completely honest with ourselves. I think the Steam Workshop is it's amazing. I love it. I really do. But I think sometimes having that extra little bit of challenge and being like, you know what, how am I going to do this? How are we going to figure it out? How can we sort of get the idea of what I'm trying to do here without just, you know, going and downloading a bunch of terraced houses and district themes and stuff like that. I just like that challenge. That's why I like to do it this way. And I'm a bit awkward. So, you know, that's probably another reason. And so this might be a little bit too much with regards to trees and the same building everywhere, but it has the feeling that I'm wanting for Lakeside North. It's sort of dense and sort of not, which is, I've been described that way, so it's probably okay. It's just a little neighborhood. It's not completely suburban. It's not got sprawling, windy streets and cul-de-sacs, but it has the feel that I want and that I think makes sense for a space like this. So at this point, what we really need to do is fill up the rest of this space with much of the same. But I feel like the rest of this space, aside from maybe this road over here, could probably do with a different looking building. I don't want to use just this same building for absolutely everything. And I realize it's funny I'm saying that as I'm placing that exact same building along another road right here. But I don't want to use it for all of this. I don't want to use it for all of Lakeside South, especially Lakeside South, which is probably going to be a little bit pricier. It's going to be a little bit fancier. It could maybe use some different types of detached houses, maybe something a little bit more like this, or something a bit, well, certainly not that one, but you get the idea. It can use something a bit fancier. It can be a bit more modern. And so that's why this is going to be a little bit more townhousey, and this is going to be a little bit more suburban. We're gradually fading away from the city, even though I said that's a thing that doesn't happen in real life. And so now that that last row of houses is in, let's go ahead and make sure it is set as historical so that they don't upgrade and turn into anything else. I also went ahead and put some fences along this road just to sort of enclose things a little bit. I'm quite happy with how that's turned out. And I guess we need to pick what the other type of house is going to be for the rest of this space. And if we go in and have a look, I mean, it probably should be something relatively similar to these guys. It needs to be something that's relatively dense, that's going to have a good number of people living in it, but it also needs to not be super modern because that's the southern neighborhood. So maybe these guys. Although I will say the issue I'm seeing with these guys is that there doesn't seem to be a back door on the building. So we have the two entrances. It is still sort of a townhouse type thing. I just don't know how they would get to a yard. So maybe these ones don't have any kind of backyard. Maybe what we do is we go in with the fences and we just say that a fence runs down either side of a path instead of anything else. Maybe this is a bit of a lower fence, like the one we have at the edge of the district. Although, to be completely honest, I do think the privacy would be something people want here. So maybe the forestry fence is what we stick with just for the sake of privacy. But maybe this is what we do. Maybe these guys are a little bit different and don't have the same yard. The only issue that I see with that is that it does kind of take away from the effect that we're going for. If you zoom out and you kind of look at this, you can kind of tell that there's sort of backyards and all these guys. You look at these and it's, oh, there's a fence and there's a path. So I don't know. I'm really not too sure about these buildings. Again, I do want the challenge of having to figure this out. It's just a matter of figuring it out. Although, at the same time, maybe we just do this. Maybe we just have a little something like that, which could obviously go a little bit closer to the building, something a bit more there, perhaps. It can kind of continue this way a little bit, and just a tiny little smidge this way. Maybe that's what we do. Maybe we just run a section of fence the whole way down here, and we do little 1-unit inserts so that the building is still kind of, it's implied that it's surrounded by, oh, that's not what I wanted. It's implied that it's surrounded by fences, but obviously it actually isn't. This way we just sort of create a yard behind each building, and if we zoom out, hopefully, it's sort of, yeah, that sort of has the effect that I'm looking for. And zooming out and looking at this, it's actually not too bad at all. So I think these probably are the buildings that we're going to go for the rest of this. So what we'll need to do is zone all of this space and zone all of this space right here. And then we'll do sort of the same thing on this side as well. And then down here, I'm not too sure what this will be. This might be some shops. This might be a space where we can put some services or some plazas or schools or something like that. But we'll just go ahead as well and sort of extend this the entire way down to, I want to say about there. These guys are going to be a little bit trickier to figure out because the houses aren't necessarily going to line up perfectly, but that's probably okay. And then down here as well, oh man, I'm not too sure how that's going to work out. We'll do this, and I guess we'll do this, and that'll give us some houses with a path going between them. And yeah, this can be some kind of field, I guess. This is maybe a football field, a soccer field, or whatever. This space, I really don't know. This space can probably be some houses. And yeah, we're going to have a lot of weird gaps in here, I think, for a lot of these houses. It's really not going to make a whole lot of sense, but we'll manage, is what we'll do. Let's just go ahead and place these guys and get an idea of what it's going to look like. And so now that all of these houses have been built, it's going to be time to start looking at amenities and services and parks and plazas and promenades and all the things that people will want living in Lakeside North. And I want to go ahead and find a space where I can place all of those things and then come and reference them a little bit later on so that I know what I still need to build. So I'm going to go ahead and build a little 30-unit road right here. It's not going to be staying, but it's just where I can go ahead and place things that I want. And I want things like this. I want this medical clinic. I like this one as well, but I think this one has a little bit more character. I think that's the European style one. So we'll have a little medical clinic that's going to go into the neighborhood. I think we're going to want some kind of fire department. The fire coverage honestly isn't too bad here, but, well, maybe. We'll place this. I'm not really sure which one to go for. I don't really want the firehouse with the tower, although we could go with the historical fire station. So we'll try that out and see what it looks like. And then for policing, I think honestly, we maybe just go with the European police station as well. So we'll place it like this, and this is 3 service buildings that we can play with as soon as they go into the district and I figure out where they're going to go. Now, I do want residential, I do want education in here as well. And I'm thinking the European-style elementary school might not be a terrible idea. We do have an historical library as well, which probably wouldn't be a terrible idea, but it is a bit of a weird-looking building. But I think we'll place it just to have some fun with it. And we'll place it alongside the European school as well. Now, that'll be the majority of the service buildings right in here. But I also want parks, so let's take a look there and see what we have. And I think it's going to be important to get things like playgrounds. So we'll go for a small playground, we'll go for a large playground, and I think we're also going to find some kind of dog park in here as well, so people can go and walk their dogs and have a great time out doing just that. I don't really know where I was going with that. My train of thought led to apparently absolutely nowhere. I would like some tennis courts in here as well, and I think a basketball court would be pretty cool as well. And this is all stuff that I want in this neighborhood. Now, it's not necessarily all going to go into these spaces, but I think what we can do is have a little bit of fun and maybe grab the basketball court, for example, and place it in a space like this, and it'll fill up that corner really, really nicely, assuming it works, which honestly it does, and there's not a lot I need to do to that. Maybe a little fence sort of around the edge here to sort of enclose it, but that's honestly not bad. And it still gives us room to bring a path through around here and into this space, which is going to be a much larger sports-focused space. We're going to have like a soccer field in here or something. There isn't a soccer field, I don't think, in Cities Skylines. There might be, what about football if I search for football? No, we don't have any football fields either. We do have stadiums, but I don't think those belong in this neighborhood. So we'll deal with basketball for there. We can maybe go and grab the tennis court here, and honestly, I like the idea of the tennis court sort of being, let's say here. Maybe a bit of a weird spot for it, but I kind of like it. I like the idea of the tennis courts being right there. We'll move it a little bit closer, and we can put some fences around that and some trees to hide it from the highway, and that'll be pretty good. I'm going to keep those 2 here on my palette for the time being, because I do want to maybe put a couple more of those in. But for now, let's look at education. And what I'm actually very tempted to do is make a little chunk of this space be dedicated to education, and then say that the fields, like the football field, the soccer field, whatever we're calling it, is maybe a part of the school. All of these guys are also very happy because they do have a school now. They're also on fire, which is a bit of a problem, but hopefully we have some fire trucks on the way. Now, the reason I wanted this road here is because I kind of want to put the school on that road. I think that'll look kind of interesting. And what we can do is put some grass at the sides of this road. We can also go ahead and just extend that road back a little bit so the grass is kind of in line with the hedges. And then I do want to do something with parking lots in here. I don't think it's gonna, it's not gonna look luxurious. It's definitely not going to make the neighborhood fancy, but it's gonna be okay, is what it's gonna be. So we'll go for, oh boy, is this a bit too big? This might be a bit too big, but I'm kind of willing to try it. I don't know about this. This might be a little bit much, but we'll give it a bit of a shot, maybe. Ooh. I don't know about this at all. Oh man, this might be a terrible idea. Let me extend this guy down to, I'm gonna say there, and let me extend this road so that it goes a little bit further this way, so that we can maybe get an idea of the scale of this parking lot, which is, yeah, kind of huge. Definitely kind of huge. That almost seems like too much to me. It does. It does seem like a bit much, doesn't it? Oh, I don't know about that. I do not know about it. It kind of takes away from the neighborhood, doesn't it? Let's go for something a little bit smaller. Let's go for this guy. This seems, yeah. That seems much nicer. That seems much more sensible for a little suburban elementary school, I think. Go for a little bit of a smaller parking lot. And I kind of like this little loop that we have going on as well. I wonder if I can tidy it up, though. That's going to be the real question. If I just hit that button, does that help it at all? Actually, sort of, yes. Okay, I'm all right with this. This is actually perfectly fine. Let's just lower it so it's all the same height. And then all I need to do is go in and actually place some parking lots. So we'll go and do this right here, and for the rest of it, we can probably do a little bit of disabled parking at the ends. And so that is parking for the elementary school. It does sort of take away from what I was going to do with like sporty stuff in here. I'll be honest, it definitely does do that, but it also just kind of works, and I do kind of like it. So I'm willing to accept that this is a bit of a compromise for the elementary school. It just looks nice. And I think just because I do want parking in here, I think I am going to say that this road is going to be grass lined, because that way anyone that parks for these houses is going to have to use the parking lot, which I think having cars in here is going to look really cool. So I like this. I actually really like this. Now, I think what we can also do is put a small playground right about here. Now, this is, as you can see, kind of squeezed in between this house or these houses and the parking lot itself. But honestly, I don't really mind that too much. I don't mind if these trees sort of overlap with the houses. We can just imagine that maybe those trees are, part of those houses instead. And this just gives us another little thing that's going to bring people to this space. And I think having that playground near the school is a pretty good idea. It is a little bit annoying that it's kind of paved. I don't know that well, it's not paved. I think it's gravel, but I don't know that I love that. We could go in and try and make it look a little bit better, but honestly, I think that's probably fine. I think we can kind of live with this. Now, when it comes to the rest of the space, I want to make sure people can walk through here. So we're going to go and do a little bit of path work here. We'll turn off grid snapping, and we'll just bring a path straight sort of through here. I want a path that comes straight back here as well, which is being a little bit annoying right now and snapping to places I don't want it to snap to. So we'll do this, and I also want it to sort of come around here, and I don't know how well this is necessarily going to behave, but I'm hoping for possibly a miracle on this one. Is it going to give me a spot where it doesn't collide with the fences? It really doesn't look like it is. What if I do it from this side? Oh, it absolutely will. Okay. So do this. We can connect this guy, bulldoze you, and then all I need to do is run a path straight down there, run it sort of this way and sort of that way, and now people can walk from the tennis courts through past the schools, behind the houses, and that's good. That's what we're looking for. What I also want is people to be able to walk from, here straight over to the parking lot. So that'll be perfect if we just sort of tidy this up a little bit, sort of get a bit of a straighter edge on that. And that's good. That's going to let people through the area, which is exactly what we're looking for. So I suppose for the rest of this, what we can do is maybe a little bit of work with some trees to make it look a bit more, I guess, professionally designed. Because I feel like this space would have a little bit of design to it. So I don't know if these trees are necessarily the answer. Possibly these guys. They're always pretty reliable. These guys are pretty good too. I think these ones are the ones to go for. And what we'll do is just a little line of those sort of along the road there. And I think along this path as well, so that it kind of separates the school from everything else that's going on. So all of this space is for the school. It is annoying that it does have the hedges around it. Maybe we do swap out for a different type of school. Maybe we go for this one. It is a bit more modern, but it would certainly do the job and give us a bit more space to play with. And I don't think there's anything else that I can go for. So yeah, annoyingly, this is going to go away, and we are going to use the slightly more modern one, simply because it doesn't have fences around it, which means I can sort of shuffle it over and then go and put some fences in here. And I can go so far as to use the same wooden fences that we've used for the houses, so the school actually feels like it's a bit more a part of the neighborhood. And there we go. We have a space for a school. We have parking. We have a small playground. I think it looks kind of fantastic, and I think it fills this space really, really well. I'm so pleased with how this little area's turned out. I think it's become a perfect little center for Lakeside North, and I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm gonna be really, really transparent with you for a second. I've been building this for about 2 hours now. I don't know how long this video is gonna end up being, but when I started building this, it was after about 3 hours of starting and stopping recording this episode, because I wanted to build a suburb, but every time I would get about as far as building a row of houses, which was maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes after the intro and all of that, I would stop and delete it because it just looked a bit meh. And I had that feeling when I was building some of this as well. I'm going to be, again, completely honest with you. There's points where I've kind of zoomed out and looked at this, and it's not been in the video, it's been in sections where I'm building stuff and trying to figure out if I like it or not. This is starting to come together, is what I'm getting at. I've been judging this area a little bit too early, and it's starting to come together. It's really starting to feel like how I want it to feel, and I'm glad, because that happens so often. The biggest reason there's not like a video of City Skylines every day, all the time on this channel, and I'm, again, in the spirit of complete honesty, is because I'll sit down and work on something, I'll get like 2 hours in, and I'll be like, nah, not good enough. I don't like it. And I'm not, if you've been around for a while, you'll know that, fishing for compliments and stuff like that, it's not really what I do. It's not really my style. So it's not that I'm sitting here like, oh man, my builds are so bad, guys, right? Isn't everything I build just like really bad, guys? Guys? Aren't all my builds just like, you probably hate my videos? It's not that. It's just, I am my own biggest critic when it comes to a lot of this stuff, and it's just, I get like halfway through a process and I look at it and I'm like, oh, this might not be what I'm looking for, but no, this is turning out really, really, I'm really pleased with this. I will say, I don't know if putting a dog park next to a highway is an amazing idea. I might actually put the dog park sort of down here, maybe near the school, or maybe in this space. I don't know why I didn't bother just to put it in this space right here. It actually seems like a pretty good little spot for a dog park. It is still relatively close to a relatively busy road, but it's fine, I think. I think this is probably okay. And I'm also wondering if I could put some kind of shops down here, or on this road, actually. That would be a really good spot for some shops. Let's go ahead and do a little something to get some retail in here. We'll force some zoning onto this section of road, maybe only this section. And what we can do, oh boy, commercial is what I'm looking for. So this is eco-commercial. This is, oh god, I don't really want eco-commercial. I'm looking for shops. I'm looking for low-level shops is what I'm looking for. Let's do 4x4 and see what we can find in here. What is this? That's a little shop. That's like a little diner. That's kind of cool. That's probably a bit too big. That's not a shop at all. That's not what we're looking for. And that's a house. Actually, you know what? I think the eco-commercial is going to be kind of perfect for this space. So we'll do some healthy weeds right there, and we'll go for this guy right about here. And I think that'll be fine. Although it does mean that I'm going to need to go in and, I suppose, say that this district is going to have the organic and local produce specialization, so that these buildings don't get demolished. And we can also go and say that they're historical so that they don't disappear. You can go away because I'm not going to zone this space. What I'm actually going to do is try and go in there with another parking lot. So just this guy, basically, is not going to fit in there, annoyingly. All right, well, that's going to complicate things. What if I did this? What if I was to bring a road back here? And that is the parking lot road. That has also messed with our zoning, which is unfortunate, but that's fine. That's to be expected. I have zoning disabled for these roads, so whatever. We'll go like $100 that way and $100 that way. And I guess if we use node controller, we can straighten all this out. We'll set the offset to like 5. Ooh, maybe not 5. Maybe we set the offset to like 8, which is, those are some pretty sharp turns, but it is some parking, right? And that's kind of what we're going for. So we'll see if this works. We'll go ahead and force zoning on these sections of road, and that does put parking really close. You know what? Let's not do that. And so now that we have a couple of shops in here, the next thing that I want to do is figure out where the medical center is going to go. I also realize I need to get rid of this old dog park because we're not going to be keeping that right there, and that might actually end up being where our medical center goes. So let's go ahead and copy this guy, and let's bring him over. We'll put it, I guess, right in this space. This might not be a great space for it, to be totally honest. I suppose what we could do, if we really wanted to, is actually extend this road and sort of do something similar to what we did with the school. So if we have the road length be this, for example, we could go and just move this guy onto that road right about there. And that gives us a medical center kind of right in, not the middle of everything, but it's close enough. I mean, medical coverage is, I don't know that I love that. I mean, we do have a hospital right over there and there as well. I was kind of wanting the medical center to be slightly more central, which I could do if I used this one, but I don't want to use that one because I want a parking lot next to this guy as well. So I think what we're going to have to do here is accept the fact that this medical center is maybe not quite going to be exactly where I want it to be. So let's just try and rotate it around a little bit. We'll go ahead and put it, I guess, here, and then we will put a parking lot behind it. So I think very simply the way we can have this work is search for parking, switch out these roads, and again, it's going to be a relatively small parking lot. I don't think it needs to be anything huge. It is a relatively small medical center for a relatively, it's not super small, but relatively small neighborhood. And I'm going to stop saying the word relatively because it's going to get relatively annoying relatively quickly. So let's flatten this out just a little bit. We'll try and get everything to be nice and level around here, or at least as level as we can manage to make it, which is going to be a pain because the roundabout is lower than everything else. Oh, I don't love that. I don't love that. I could raise the roundabout up, but I have got this key coming along it, which would be a bit of a problem. So let's do this. Let's get the parking in here. What we'll actually do, I do want to do some disabled parking in here as well. We'll do this, and we'll do this and this, and then we'll do some disabled parking here and here, and then we'll just bring this guy back. So this can just come right back to the edge of the disabled parking, which is going to be here, and we'll bring a path around, and that should be okay. And that actually does look all right. It's not really the end of the world, so that absolutely works for me, and all we need to do is get a nice little path. And I think just to be fancy, let's use the amusement park path because it's kind of different looking. It's, ooh. You know what? Maybe let's not use it with trees. Unless I can change the trees in a path. Is that something I can do? Can I click on U to change? Oh my god, I didn't know I could do that. I mean, it makes sense. You can do it to roads, but good lord, oh, I'm going to have to go and use amusement park paths in way more places than I have been using them. Good lord. Okay. That's that's really exciting. I don't know about you, but I am excited to go and use these guys for a lot of things. That's going to be really, really cool. But yeah, I think this works for like a little medical center. We could probably get more parking in here if we really wanted to. I just don't know that we need to. Although I will say, I would like to get a little something near the medical center. I'm thinking of putting some more shops in here just because we can. So let's paint this space and this space. And I guess that's a little bit of a gap between these guys. That should be okay. We could go a bit further with how these roads are stretched, but we'll just do this. And oh no. Oh, I've messed with my zoning. Oh, I've messed with my zoning. I've completely screwed up my zoning. Oh dear. Okay. Let's get rid of this guy. Let's get rid of these guys. What are we looking at? We're looking at this. Oh man. Okay. Okay, we can live with this. We can do this and get 3 more houses there, and I guess we could get some houses across the way as well, and then maybe do a little shop in here. I guess a little shop would be nice, right? A little 3x3 or 4x3. I think a little 4x3 shop there will be lovely. So yeah, we'll do that. And oh man, I need to place more of these houses. And there we go. I think this looks okay. All of the buildings are already historic, so that's fine. This space still needs to be filled in, which honestly, I think what I'll do with this space is be very quick about it. Go and get the farm fence, and we'll use the parallel tool as a part of the network multi-tool to say that basically this, and this will be our... Wait, can I do this? Just something like that? I absolutely can. Okay. It's a little bit messed up, but we'll pause, we'll hit enter, and we can just adjust this so it's not, you know, totally messed up in the way that it is right now. And honestly, the farm fence, I think, kind of looks great around a lot of this space. I honestly really like using wooden fences to outline neighborhoods. It just looks nice. It's just a nice contrast between the... Oh, God, I said the word. I said the thing. I said the thing. Oh, God. Okay. I said the thing. It is, though. It's a nice contrast between the, you know, all the buildings and the concrete and the stone and the brick, and just a really simple little wooden fence. It looks nice. I think it looks great. I really do. Now, specifically, this space has been left empty because I want to connect over to the other side of the city. And the way I'm going to do that is by coming in here and getting myself just a regular old path. And I'm going to just go underground with it. So we're going to go something like... Oh God, there's tunnels under there. That's probably fine. We're going to do this, and I'm going to have to lower that one way or other. I don't know how well this is necessarily going to work, but I'm going to lower this down so that it's not completely, you know, messing with the terrain. And then on this side, we're kind of gonna do similar. We're gonna have a little section of path, and to be honest, I don't want to snap to the grid. I want it to be right in the middle here. And what we'll do is use this guy, the zoo path, I think is interesting. We'll go maybe 2 units there. We'll switch to this, and we're gonna go down to something like -9. I don't really care what it can be. It can be minus 12. Let's say -12. Bring this over. Connect it right there. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be fancy, but just a little something that now connects these 2, you know, previously disconnected sides of the city. And to be honest, I think this is going to be really busy. I do. I really think this is going to be super busy. So what I might do is actually try and get a little bit interesting with this, because I do have some tunnels that I could play with. So let's say we wanted some brick. We could do this. I can go and I can grab those nodes. I think they're considered other, and we can raise this up. Now that's actually very wide, but what I can do is use node controller to grab this node and bring it in a bit. So we'll stretch it only maybe, wait, can I bring it in a bit? I can. So bring that down to say 75%. And it's now more narrow, which is what I'm looking for. So we'll go to this side and we'll do the same thing, 75%. And now what I'm wondering is if I could potentially copy this and just sort of put it over here. I mean, I absolutely can. It's just whether or not this is actually going to work. And it kind of does. Now, obviously, it's not going to be this tall. That's kind of ridiculous looking. But what I can do is sort of bring this back a little bit to say there. We could make it even more narrow if we wanted to. And if I just grab this node and extend it to say there, I can sink this down And I mean, I'd need to stretch this out a little bit further, but you can kind of see what I'm going for, I think. It looks horrible. It looks pretty bad. This idea, not all of my ideas are good ones, all right? I'm gonna say, gonna just let you know right now that not all of my ideas end up being good ones, and they don't always end up being ones that stay in the video. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about this. I mean, I kind of think it looks cool. You can see what I'm going for, but imagine living next to this. It'd be terrible. Oh, it would be awful. What if I made it a bit more narrow? What if it was like 65%? And then at this end, it was also 65%. Is that... No, I can't. Can I grab that node? Oh, no. Oh, no, please. Let me grab the node. There it is. All right, so you, 65%. It's not that bad. It really isn't. Yeah, your view out of the house would be terrible, but oh well. Deal with it. That's that's how we're going to talk to our residents. Deal with it. You'll be fine. Stop complaining. I honestly, I'm kind of here for this. It is, it's kind of cool. It's different, that's kind of what I'm going for. I think if we just put a couple of trees next to this, it'll be perfectly fine, right? So a little bit something like that, and then maybe a little bit of density just behind it to kind of hide it a little bit. Hide our crimes as we always typically do in City Skylines. Honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. I actually am. As long as it hasn't messed with my zoning next to it, which I don't think it has. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I'm now really curious to see how many people might use this tunnel to cross underneath the highway and get to good old Lakeside North. And so it turns out the answer to my question of how many people will use the tunnel is a lot, which is fantastic news because that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping that a lot of people would want to walk from one side of the city to the other, which is exactly what that tunnel does. And to be quite honest, we probably need more tunnels like that connect good old Lakeside North to Dale Hills and Vermont District and beyond. But that's what buses are going to be for, and buses is something we'll get to shortly. But before we do that, I do want to get some policing in here, I want to get some fire coverage in here, and I do want to go ahead and get this large playground in here. Now we have this space right here, which might be the best place for a large playground because it would be next to the school. But I'm also kind of thinking over here could be a bit of a... Wait, what are you doing? The hell is this? Hold on a minute. No. You can get out of here. That is not a building for this neighborhood. What's going on there? Hold on a second. Let's search for good old detached right there. Let's go and make sure that it's historical. And I guess we're going to have to figure out a way to bring that fence around that doesn't mess with the building, because that's not what I'm looking for at all. Let's see. Turn off snapping real quick. We'll start... Oh, God. I'm going to need to turn off collisions as well. We'll start about here. We'll go back to... I'm going to say there. We'll turn snapping back on, but this time I think we'll use this guy to go ahead and connect these guys, which is hopefully going to work. If I select you and select you... Oh... Maybe not. Okay. Well, that's fine. I can do it the old-fashioned way, which is like that. And that seems fine. Yeah, that seems just fine. That's okay by me. I am also thinking, with all these weird gaps that we have, something I could do is actually go ahead and sort of connect these corners together and then just create like a larger yard space for some of these houses. So like these fences here would go away. This fence here would kind of get moved to the middle. And then we can maybe imagine that this space is for this house and this space is for that house. So some of them have larger yards than their neighbors, such as these guys. I extended those right back there. And there's some around here as well. These guys I extended down to the road as well. I think that's just going to be a way to use and fill kind of a lot of this space without having to get super weird with different buildings and stuff like that. We can just say that, yeah, some of them have larger yards, some of them have smaller yards, some of them have more trees to deal with. Some of them have fewer trees to deal with, and honestly, I think that looks okay. I might do the same in here as well with these guys, although this guy does already have quite a large yard, so we'll see about that. But like I said, I want to get the playground in here, so let's go grab it, let's copy it, and I guess here is a decent spot. There is a dog park just down the street from it. And I guess up here doesn't really have much in terms of entertainment for people. So let's actually just put the playground right next to a highway. Yeah, we'll put it there. We'll go ahead and just put it right there. Now that'll be okay. And that might actually give us a way to do another tunnel or something. Maybe we try and get a tunnel from here that connects to, well, I don't really know. I don't really know where it would connect to, but we'll figure that out. It's probably okay. Let's just not think about the fact that I've put a children's playground next to a highway. I'd really prefer not to discuss that right now. It's not my best bit of design, but I'm sure it'll be all right. I'm sure it'll be fine and not be a problem at all. We'll also just bring these paths around here so people can walk around this space. And I think what we'll do is go in with the forest brush, and we're just gonna fill all of this with some oh, I've got collisions off. Hold on. That's not what we're looking for. That's a little bit too dense, is what that is. Let's get collisions back on. Back to the forestry brush. And there we go. That's a little bit more what we're looking for. It is extremely, extremely dense. That might actually be way too much in terms of tree density there. Let's go a little bit lighter. Yeah, that looks a little bit more realistic, I think. It's not realistic, but it's better than it was. And then these little bald patches right here. Honestly, I'm not going to patch them up too much. Bald patches are a thing. I've got a couple on my beard here and there, and based on my family's track record, I will one day have plenty of them on the top of my head. So I'm not going to shame any bald patches at all. It is a thing that happens. So we'll go ahead and just put like a single tree right there. And that looks all right. Oh man, this is really coming together. I was so nervous building this, but I'm actually starting to really enjoy like just zooming. Oh, it looks so good. I'm so pleased with this. There's still so much to do, but I'm so pleased with this. All right, so when it comes to policing and fire coverage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this police station and I'm going to put it right here. And for fire coverage, I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to put it sort of next to the police station. Now, what I do want to do is try to get these guys to be essentially joined at the hip. Although I'm not really too sure how well that's going to work. Maybe this goes on this side, and we'll sort of imagine that they're maybe kind of the same building. I don't know how much sense that necessarily makes. This kind of works, though. Having the little fire station as like a proper extension of the police station, that's kind of interesting. And I can use the, oh god, what do you call that part of the top of the roof? I cannot remember at all. We'll use the roof to sort of line these guys up a little bit. And then just something kind of like that. It's definitely interesting. It's a weird looking building for sure, but I don't really hate that. I don't. It's weird. It's really, really weird looking, but it's different, and that's kind of what I want. So this is what we're going to do for police and fire. Obviously, this guy needs to be on a road, and they do need water. But I want to get a little bit of commercial zoning in here. And actually, I'm going to grab these guys and just move them to more like here, so that they're going to be a little bit further away from the commercial zoning. And we can go ahead and just level them to the height of that road. And yeah, this is where we can do some commercial stuff. So here and here, we're going to be looking for eco stuff again. So eco commercial is what we need to search for. And we're going to look for something that is essentially going to be, I guess, 4x3 in terms of its size, or 4x2 or whatever. 4 by something is kind of what I'm looking for here. So that's a 3x3. This is a 4x2. But the public market is actually the same as what we have up here, so I don't want to do exactly the same building. 2x4 is interesting, but not really what I'm looking for. This is a 1x2. This is a 1x1. This is a 4x3. It's a weird looking, I don't even know what that is, so I'll place it and find out. This is a 2x3, which maybe we do that. Maybe we go for the 2x3. We could go for this as well. Bit of a more built-up looking building, though. This is a 3x2. That's another public market. I guess we'll go for these guys. Right, we'll go for that, and that'll be perfectly fine. So we'll let those build. We'll pop over this way and say set historical, and we'll see what they end up looking like. And then for this guy, obviously, we kind of need to get a little road in there. That's gonna be a pain. It's gonna mess with my existing. It's gonna mess with my buildings, isn't it? I should have done the road layout before I did the buildings. Is what I'm thinking here. I really should have. And so, with a police station, a bunch more trees, a bunch more bushes, some fences, some paths, and did I mention trees? I think we're looking like we're just about done with good old Lakeside North. Like I said a few times, I was a little bit nervous building this, but I'm so pleased with how it looks from above. It's obviously not 100% the type of suburb that I think we were maybe thinking of when we set out on this adventure today, but I think it looks great. I think it does exactly what we needed it to do. It fills up a space. It is suburban-ish. It's not necessarily a transition away from the Dale Hills style, but it's also not high density, and it's also not being a nightmare for traffic, which is surprising. I was expecting it to be a traffic nightmare, and I'm actually really pleased that, at least thus far, it isn't. And so, we have come to the point of the video where it's time to say that that is going to do us for today. But before I wrap things up, I just wanted to thank you again for all of the feedback, the comments, the support, the kindness shown in the comments on the last episode. I do appreciate it, and I have written down all of the suggestions like I mentioned at the start of this episode. I did also say I was going to try and do City Skylines every day this week, and I didn't post an episode yesterday, if you're watching this on the day that it goes out. The reason for that is because I needed to replace the power supply in my PC. It was making a noise that it shouldn't have been making, and if you follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/ConflictNerd, by the way, you'll find a video that kind of lets you know what the noise was. It was screeching at me. It was quite something. So I had to spend the morning replacing that thing, and then there was just life stuff going on. I wanted to do cities every day this week, and I didn't, and I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do is amend my promise and say that I'm going to try and have a bunch of city skylines this week, but not necessarily every single day. And I'm going to try and have at least 3 or 4 cities videos every week on the channel moving forward, because between the waste thingy complex, the garbage disposal, what's it called? What's that thing called? The waste processing plant, this thing. Between that and this, I'm having a lot of fun building stuff in City Skylines again. I've seen a bunch of comments saying that this is kind of like Emerald County 2.0 that people have been asking for years, and I don't know if it is, but if it is, then it is. It's just that this one's going to stick around, whereas that one's, never going to be continued at this point. But yeah, that's going to do us for today. I just wanted to explain what happened with the Cities Everyday thing. I know I promise things and then they don't happen, but it was legitimate power supply in the computer. Was having a rough time. I just couldn't get a video recorded in time. So that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching. I just stuttered over my I just stuttered over my outro because I forgot something. Next time, I want to build a retail park and Lakeside South. That's what I wanted to mention. So if you have any ideas, any suggestions for real retail parks in real life, let me know. We'll bring them up in Google Maps and take a look at them. And yeah, that is going to do us for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure, as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.